Hey everyone, Mo here, and before the video begins, I just want to let you guys know that my schedule has opened up for me to do coaching again. So if you're interested in private one-on-one coaching for me to help you, whether you're a newer player and you want to excel at the game very quickly and learn the fundamentals without developing any bad habits early, or if you're an experienced player who's already maybe platinum or diamond and you're top 1%, but you need some help filling in the gap to get you to that 0.01%, to make you just some of the best, then hit me up on Discord and I can get you in some private one-on-one coaching lessons to help you polish up any skills you want to refine and help you learn all of the secrets to becoming a top player. That's it. I hope you enjoy the video. Hey everybody, Mo here, and in this video I'm going to be giving you guys the deck guide over the new Trundle Lissandra Control Deck, or better known as TLC Control Combo Deck. And this is a new deck that we got, a new-ish deck with a little asterisk by it. We've always had some form of like Trundle, like Freljord Shadow Isle control style deck, and essentially this new version is just taking control and utilizing the new tools we got from the Shurima expansion, which is Lissandra, giving you a Watcher. And for those of you that don't know, Watcher is a 17 mana card, really costs 0, and it says attack, obliterate the enemy deck. And this is it doesn't go on the stack. This is just I attack you, your deck is gone. Almost every single time, this is an immediate win if you can attack with this card. Sometimes they shuffle like a champ spell or two in, but even then you're still attacking with like 11 power unit, and you're usually either killing them with damage or completely milling them out. And the way this works is you play Lissandra, you play a Trundle. On turn 8, you play Ice Pillar from Trundle. That's 1 8 mana card. You copy it with Fading Memories. That's 2 8 mana cards. And then you use a Spectral Matron to go ahead and the 2 8 level cards levels up Lissandra and puts a Watcher into your hand. And then you can use Matron to summon the Watcher out of the hand for free. So that gives you 1 Watcher in for free. And then if they have a way to deal with that, whether they have a Vengeance or they have a Hush or something, then the Watcher in your hand now costs 0, so you can just replay the Watcher that's in your hand now. So they have to have a way to deal with 2 Watchers, and then you just attack them and then kill them. It's a really nice OTK deck. It's really, really boring to play. I mean, just like every other, I'm not going to lie, every other Shadow Isle Freljord control deck is the same. It's extremely boring to play. You control the board until turn 8, turn 9, you win with this combo deck, with the Spectral Matron into Watcher combo. So that's it for this intro. I'm about to get in. We're going to go over why each card is on the deck, the purposes, the curves of the deck, a mulligan guide, and then at the end we're going to have a matchup guide if you join my Discord below. So before we start with the actual video, I want to remind you guys that 80% of the people that watch my videos aren't actually subscribed to me. So if you could do me a huge favor and help me out with the YouTube algorithm by clicking that subscribe button, it helps me out a lot. I really appreciate it. And if you change your mind, you can always just unsubscribe for free later on. So that's it for the intro. Hope you guys enjoyed the deck guide. Alright, so in this section, we're going to go ahead and go over every card in the deck and the purpose behind why it's in the deck and what purpose it serves and, you know, the role it plays in the deck. So we'll just start from the cheapest cards all the way down to the most expensivest. So we'll start with Fading Memories. Fading Memories is very much a combo card. You need this card to win on turn 8, and this card is also really good insurance in the later game to use on your Watcher in case they have a way to deal with 1 Watcher. You can go ahead and make it to where they have to deal with like 2 or 3 or 4 Watchers and make it essentially impossible for them to deal with. This card is also extremely versatile and can be used on your opponent's minions for good blockers. For instance, there was a game where I played against the Shurima Shadow Isles Burn style deck, and I copied their Doom Beast so that way I could gain 2 life and not die to their burn early on. And so this card is very versatile. Most of the time you're using it to copy a Pillar on turn 8. So the turn 8 win is you play Pillar. You already have a Lissandra in play. You go play Pillar, that's 1 8 mana card. Then you Fading Memories, play Pillar, that's 2 8 mana cards. And then you go ahead and use your Matron here on the, your Lissandra will level up. You use Matron on the Watcher, and that not only puts a free Watcher in play that your opponent now has to deal with, but that also counts as 2 more 8+ cards. So now the extra Watcher in your hand costs 0 mana, and that's how you win the game on turn 8. You can also use Fading Memories on your opponent's Pillar. If you don't draw a Trundle, but your opponent does, then and they end up playing their Pillar, then you can use a Fading Memories to steal your opponent's Pillar and just start popping off that way if all you have is Lissandra in play. So this is much combo card, as well as you can use it on your opponent's units to go ahead and stay alive. So Sentry is just a good early game anti-aggro card. You can block anything like a 5-2 or something with 2 HP, and it refills itself. That's good. Entreat is here to draw you your Lissandras or your Trundles, so that way you can combo off in the late game, because you really only win with this version if you draw both Lissandra and Trundle. So that's why Entreat's in here. Vile Feast to stop the early game aggro swarm against things like Dune Keeper and House Spider and other like 2-1s. This is really good against. Flash Freeze is good for the mid to late game fights whenever you need a Flash Freeze like a big Overwhelm unit, whether that's like a Trundle or an Alpha Wild Claw or a Ledros or something like really big. Lissandra's in here because she wins you the game with Watcher, so she's the main star of the show. I typically don't actually play Lissandra until like turn 7, or sometimes I'll summon her in with a Matron on turn 8. Because if Lissandra doesn't see you level or hit play after you level her, and you don't get a Watcher in your hand, it's actually really, really hard to lose. I'm sorry, it's really, really hard to win if Lissandra doesn't actually put a Watcher in your hand. So playing Lissandra on 3, if you only have one Lissandra, is extremely risky and usually not worth it. Because if they can kill your Lissandra at any point in time over the next 5 turns, then you now have to draw a second Lissandra, and that just makes it really hard to combo. Avalanche, Blighted Ravine, Box, and Whale are all in here for the same reason. All 3 of these are in here, or I'm sorry, all 4 of these are in here to go ahead and kill an early game Swarm board. So this is something like Pirates if they try and fill the board with 2-1s or 3-2s. You know, like Spiders, like any type of early game aggro. Like even if you're playing against the Shurima SI, like NASA's Thresh deck, that's really decent. They usually try and fill the board up on turn 3 or 4, and you just play Avalanche or you play Blighted Ravine, and it's really, really good at making sure that the board stays really small. Also, if you play something like Blighted Ravine on your turn, it stops your opponent from developing, and it makes their open attack really bad, and it forces them to develop on their next turn, which you can then punish with something like an Avalanche or a Box or a Whale. So Blighted Ravine is a really big MVP in these cards when you use them on your turns, because it stops your opponent from having a good open attack. Battling Bjerg is in here. It's only a 2 of because all it does is it fetches you a Matron. So this is for whenever you play, like, you have the Lissandra, you have the Trundle. All you need is the Matron to win the game. You can go ahead and just play Battling Bjerg. It's a nice body, so you have a decent blocker. And then you go ahead and just pull a Matron out of your deck. You have it in your hand now, so by the time you hit turn 8, turn 9, you are winning the game. Like I said, Ravine, Box, and Whale also for the same purpose of board clear. You play Catalyst on turn 3. The reason you do that is because it just lets you get to your big turns faster, so you win the game 1 turn faster. If you don't play a 2-mana card on turn 2 or 3, then you can Catalyst on turn 3. It allows you to play Trundle on turn 4 now, or you can play your like Blighted Ravine or your Withering Whale on turn 4. And that can sometimes be a really, really big swing in your game depending on what type of deck you're playing against. The next card we're going to talk about here, the last cards are Vengeance and Matron. So Vengeance is here obviously just to kill the really big unit. So if you're playing against something like Overwhelm, you can use this to kill something like an Alpha Wild Claw. You can combo it with something like Vile Feast to kill the big Spell Shield like Ruin Runner card. You can, in the mirror match, you use Vengeance to actually kill the Lissandra, because Lissandra's the only card that's important here. Like, you can kill the Trundle to stop some of the damage, but all in all, if it looks like they're about to combo off with Watcher, like, you will lose to Watcher. You cannot handle 2 Watchers in the same turn. So if it looks like they're about to combo off and they have a Lissandra in play, I would go ahead and just kill the Lissandra to force them to now kill you with a Trundle, which you can either have blockers for, you can gain life for. Most of the really good TLC decks aren't playing Atrocity anymore, so you don't have to worry about getting burnt out by some type of over-the-top reach. So if you have like a Frostbite or something like that, like a Flash Freeze, that's really, really good. Vengeance is a very versatile card, and this helps you deal with the really big units that your Blighted Ravine, Avalanche, and Boxes don't kill. So your Avalanche, Blighted Ravine, Withering Whale, and Box kills all the smaller units, and then you use Vengeance to go ahead and kill all the bigger units. And the last card in the deck is the Spectral Matron. And this card is just your combo card. You can use this on the Watcher, and it counts as 2 8-power units. So it goes ahead and it makes sure the Matron in your, it makes the Watcher in your hand cost 0. Because the only way you get a Watcher in your hand is you've already cost, like, your Lissandra's leveled up, which means you've already cast 2 8+ power units. So then, if you play Matron onto Watcher, it'll count Watcher as a 17 power unit and Matron as an 8 power unit, so that will then do the extra 2 that you need to make Watcher cost 0 in your hand. So even if they have a way to deal with the Watcher that your Matron summoned, you have a 0 mana Watcher now, and you just get to play a second Watcher. And now they have to have a way to deal with your second Watcher. And then if you have something like a damn Fading Memories, you can copy the damn Watcher. And now they have to have a way to deal with the third Watcher. Like, this deck is so good and has so many ways to play around just stuff like, oh, like Vengeance, what is the Entomb? Like, to playing around like Vengeance Entomb or like Hush Hush or like Silent Stun or something like that. Like, because you play Fading Memories, you can actually have up to 5 Watchers in play at the same time, which is like absolutely crazy. And really get to play around Hush. So that's the purpose behind every card in the deck. So the next section we're going to go over is we're going to go ahead and talk about the general curves in this deck and how you want to typically play this deck between turns 3 and then turns like 9 when you start to win the game. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the curves for this deck and the playstyle of it. So the curve is actually really weird, and this is a lot different than every other deck I've covered so far in my Deck Guide for Dummies series. So this doesn't have an actual like curve and decks you want or cards you want to curve out with. It's very much just a live until turn 8 or turn 9 deck. So that means instead of just being like with Fiora Shin, you're like, oh yeah, your curve is play Fiora on 3, play Shin on 4, and then keep spell mana open for the rest of the game. This deck is a lot different than that. This deck is very much just play the cards you need to survive until turns 8 and turns 9. If you can survive until turns 8 and turn 9, you will win the game with Watcher combo. So to get there though, you're not necessarily playing your like Lissandra on 3, your Trundle on 5, stuff like that. Like, those aren't curves you want to be looking for. Like I said, like Lissandra, you rarely ever want to play before like turn 7, the turn before you're about to actually combo off, or Lissandra's about to see you level up and give you a Watcher and stuff like that. So a lot of the times it really is a passing game. This deck doesn't have an actual curve as far as like, oh, just play your like Sentry on 2, Lissandra on 3, Bjerg on 4, play your like Trundle on 5. Like, yeah, those are all units that have a mana number and you could curve them out like that, but that's not always the best option. A lot of the times your best option is to just open pass. Just pass to your opponent, see what they play, and then say, okay, can I handle this open attack, or do I need to deal with the developmental attack? So what that means is just say, okay, my opponent played a 2-1 and I have a Vile Feast in my hand. I'm okay, I can pass here. Because if he open attacks me, I Vile Feast the 2-1 and I take no damage. And then if he develops anymore, I just play Avalanche. So you always want to put your opponent in a fork. If you play chess, you understand that terminology of a fork. That means your opponent has to choose between one of 2 situations, and both are not good. Like, either way, you will come out ahead. So if you're holding open 4 mana, your opponent has to decide, okay, do I want to develop into this Avalanche, or do I want to open attack into this Withering Wail? Both scenarios, you have an answer to, and you'll come out ahead. One of the scenarios, your opponent has to play around, and you just have to hope that it's the better scenario for yourself. So that's really how you play with this deck, and as far as like the curves go, it's really just pass. Turn 7, play my Lissandra maybe, and then like turn 8, play Pillar, copy Pillar, play Matron, win the game. That's like the real curve, is just like getting to turn 8. As long as you can get to turn 8, you'll win, and you'll be fine. Getting to turn 8, you just have to figure out when you want to Avalanche. You want to use Blighted Ravines to stop open attacks. Essentially, you will almost always use a Blighted Ravine on your turn, is when you get the most value out of it. Because it stops your opponent from developing on your turn, and then forces your opponent to develop on their turn, which wastes their mana on your turn, and then gets them to use their mana on their turn first, developing, in which case you can then respond with an Avalanche, or by playing a blocker, or by using something like a Vile Feast and killing a unit and getting a blocker. Like, this game is very much like CT-sided. You know, like, if you ever played Valorant, or if you've ever played CSGO, you'll understand that those games are very CT-sided and have Defender's advantage. This game has Reactor's advantage. If you can get your opponent to spend their mana first and play their cards first, you'll have the advantage by getting to react with the perfect amount of mana, getting to react with the perfect card, getting to react with using like Flash Freeze on the perfect unit and stuff like that, getting to avalanche more units than just one or something like that. So this is the same concept as in other shooting games being CT-sided. So that's why you always want to try and pass and force your opponents to go ahead and use their mana first, because most of the time the person that uses their mana second gets more value out of their mana. So the main goal of this deck, or the main curve, is just to go ahead and pass a whole bunch, play your cards when you need to, just so that way you can have the perfect response and perfect reaction, and then just get to turn 8 to turn 9 and win the game. And in the final section of this video, we're going to go over cards to Mulligan versus each archetype, and then I'll go ahead and let you guys know that there's going to be a matchup guide and matchup spread in my Discord. If you join my Discord, that's in the description below. Alright, so in this final section, we're going to go over mulligans. So I'm just going to give you general mulligans for each archetype versus aggro, versus mid-range, and versus control with this style deck. So against aggro, you're really going to want just your board clear cards and your Vial Feast. You don't really want to keep your like Trundles and Matrons and Lissandras and stuff like that. You really just want your avalanches, ravines, like avalanche, box, ravine, whale, Vial Feast, all really good keeps. You want to keep, and sentry is a really good keep. You want to keep cards that just stop your opponent from swarming the board. The only way they ever beat you is by going really wide really fast, and then you stop that by something with like avalanche. You know, you can avalanche as early as turn 3. So if they develop a really big board, you can just go, okay, we'll play my avalanche, you have to keep going now. And you eventually run them out of cards. As long as you play against aggro, your goal is just run them out of cards. Kill all of their units, run them out of cards in hand, and that's how you're going to end up beating control. Vial Feast is great at this. Avalanche and Whale is great at this, as well as, you know, boxing if you're against decks like TF Fizz and stuff like that. Against your mid-range matchups, you're going to want more of, like, your Trundle, your Beard, your Vengeance, stuff like that. Like, you don't want as many Avalanche, Ravine, Box, Vial Feast. You might want, like, one Avalanche, depending on the mid-range deck. If they have things that die to Avalanche, you might want one Box. Like, if you're playing against Fiora Shin, you know, Fiora on turn 3 dies to Box. I'd be very willing to go, okay, on turn 3, they play Fiora, I play Box. Force them to play Sharpsight to keep their Fiora alive. Like, I'm happy with that trade. I'll take that for sure every day. Stuff like that. So most of the time, you only want one of these cheap kill spells. And then the most part, you just want units. So you want your, like, Babbling Beers, your Trundles, and then you want your, like, Vengeance and stuff like that. So you can deal with the mid-game, big-ass units. And against the control matchup, I only keep combo pieces. Like, I don't keep any Avalanche, Ravine, like, Box, Whale. Those don't do shit in the mirror match and the control matchups. All I ever really want is the, like, I want Lissandra, Trundle, Matron. Those are really the only cards I want. And you want, like, Catalyst, like your Ram spells, so that way you can get to your turn 8 before your opponent can. Because if you can get to your win turn faster than them, you're gonna win faster than them. So that's a really good reason to keep this card. And then you just want your really big, like, combo pieces. Like, I'll literally keep Matron, Trundle, Catalyst in my opening hand. Even though, like, these cards don't do anything until the late game, that's fine because you know you guys are going to the late game. Like, you guys are going to be, like, draw, go, draw, go, draw, go for the first 5 turns of the game until someone plays their Trundle, and then you're going to win. In the control matchup, you really do not want to play your Lissandra until she's either already leveled or until she's about to level. The safest way to get your Lissandra level is to actually, if you have double Matron off of the Spectral Matron here, is to go ahead and use Matron to summon a Lissandra. Well, like, you go play your Trundle Pillar, that's 1 8-mana card, and then you just go Matron onto Lissandra. That will level your Lissandra in play, so you will get the Watcher. And that's really, really good. So then your Lissandra's leveled, and this play is really good. Like I said, only good if you have a second Matron in your hand, because then the next turn you're attacking, or the next turn, you can play your second Matron onto the Watcher, and then your Watcher costs 0 and all that type of stuff. So the biggest key against the control slow matchups is just to make sure you don't slam Lissandra on 3. I see people do this all the time, and it is definitely incorrect to just slam Lissandra on 3, because then you're just hoping your opponent doesn't kill this Lissandra in the next, like, 5 to 6 turns, and that's, like, extremely unlikely. So keep Lissandra until you're, like, turn 7 or turn 8 when you're winning the game. So that's the general Mulligan guide. I'm gonna have a matchup guide on how you want to approach each specific tiered matchup, going off of the Mobalytics tier list in my Discord. So if you want to check that out when this video releases, make sure to go into the link in the description below for my Discord. Go ahead and join that, and then there will be a tab called Deck Guides, and it'll have this deck on there, and then you just download that notebook. It's completely free. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to subscribe to anything. All you have to do is just join the Discord and, you know, download the notepad that has all of the matchups for you and how you're supposed to play each matchup. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. The gameplay for this video will be out tomorrow. That's the way I format all my videos, is I post the deck guide day 1, and then immediately following the day of that will be the gameplay for the video. So if you want gameplay on the Lissandra Control Deck to see how I play the deck and to see some of the things I've talked about here in action, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the video tomorrow, and check out again tomorrow for the gameplay video. So that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like if you did. Go join me on Twitch. I'm live on Twitch right now. Everyone say hi. YouTube. So if you want to see these deck guides a day or two before they actually go live on YouTube, I almost always record my deck guides over on Twitch. So if you want a sneak preview and you want to see this before the YouTube frogs do, make sure you head over to my Twitch and watch that nightly. So that's gonna be the video. I'll see you guys in the next video.